Hello, my neighbor. Let's talk about who can bear arms, okay? So we have another fun bit today. We have another hot take. Check out this title. What are arms? All right, we're going to talk about arms right now because let me set this one up really quick. So I was hanging out in the appellate court and then I was listening to an argument, and then the argument, they're talking about arms, and they were talking about privacy, and then how when you purchase your firearm in here in California, you have to give up a lot of information, a lot of private information. And they were arguing about that component right there, how, you're violating one of your rights and your rights to privacy when you give up this information because it goes to third-party entities, and you don't know what they're doing with that information, right? So we thought it was a very interesting case, but we're always listening to these arguments and we're seeing what positions people come from, and we just like to keep it really super simple, right? That's why we keep it super simple, right? And that's why we're just going to talk about what are arms and who can bear arms, okay? Two things: who can bear and what are they, all right? And I want to give a shout out to, before we go, I want to give a shout out to the California Attorney General for showing us how they administer the law. So I really appreciate the California Attorney General, and I really appreciate how they show us how they execute the trust. So the people wrote a constitution, and the constitution is the contract that the California entities are bound to. And we're finding out right now that they don't know this, and a lot of them may not even agree with it. And we're here to show you, and we're here to put you in your place, okay? So thank you for your service. Thank you for being transparent. And thanks for this jump off bit. Now, let's go ahead and hop on this hot take on what are arms. Okay, we're going to talk about arms right now. But my neighbor, before we go, we have to lay down some terms and we have to lay down some conditions so you and I, we can agree upon them and we can be on the same page. All right, now check out these words right here. Check out what arms are. Arms are weapons of offense. That's what arms are. Arms are weapons of offense or armor for defense and protection of the body. That's what arms are. So right there, that entails a lot, a whole lot, right? So we hear the arguments. A lot of these arguments are always coming from the position of firearms, right? So you see how they join two words together, fire and then arms, right? So whenever they join words together, you diminish the power of the word. Arms are arms, right? Arms are arms. And then we're always hearing from the points of view of the government that the government tries to join words together and then they try to control that new term and that new condition. This is why we like to break them up and separate them and show you what arms are. So arms are weapons of offense, weapons, that's any type of weapon of offense, or armor for defense. That's any type of armor and protection of the body. So you got one body. Okay, so you can use any type of tool or any type of weapon to protect your body or to defend your body. Okay, this is what you can do, right? So you can attack or you can defend your body if somebody tries to come at you. Okay, remember this, all right? That's what offense means. Offense means you go on the attack, and then when you defend, you block. Okay, all right, now drop down and check out this term right here in condition: infringe. All right, so put this one in your back pocket and never move from this position. Infringe means to break. Infringe means to break as contracts, right? That's what infringe is. Infringe is to violate. So if you have terms and if you have conditions and they're written down and then you agree upon them and then you swear under penalty of perjury that you're going to follow it, that you're going to support and you're going to defend that, right? Then we got your contract. That's the contract, right? We got your words and you can't break it. Okay, so you can't infringe on anything that we the people wrote down in our contracts. And we're seeing right now that a lot of people are infringing on our contracts because they're creating new terms and they're creating new conditions, and then they're running jurisdiction over those terms and then those conditions, and the people don't take the time to slow down and read the original terms and the original conditions, so then that way they can run jurisdiction over their governments. Okay, but this is what we like to do, and this is why we like showing you the terms and the conditions, right? We try to keep it super simple, and that's why we kiss all day, all night. All right, now drop down and check out this steps to buy. So I'm showing you what the steps to buy are, right? This is how This is how simple it should be, because when we hear these arguments from the courts and the appellate courts and the trial courts, right, we're seeing that, their arguments are coming from the wrong position, right? So if you have a market, because we created a market out here in America through our constitutions, so we created a market so that people can go buy their goods and then their services. So we're just going to show you how to go buy things in the market in simplicity, okay? This is what you should be able to do as one of the people. If you're one of the people of America, right, and then you fall under the jurisdiction of our political associations called the United States or whatever other state you're in, this is how you should be able to buy your goods and services, okay? Check this out. You should be able to go to the market, and then you should be able to choose a tool, and then you should be able to show political association ID, and then you should be able to buy the tool. Right? That's all it takes. That's all it takes. So like when you go to a store and then you want to buy something, a good or a service from them, you go in that store, you look around, you see what it is that you want to buy, and then you can go and then you can show your ID so you can buy that good or service, right? It's just like when you go to Costco, right? It's exactly like when you go to Costco. So when you go to Costco, what do? Before you even enter the store, you have to show your ID so you can get into the store. And then you can buy whatever it is that you want in that store. That's how simple it should be, right? So it doesn't really matter what it is that you're buying in our markets as long as they don't harm the people, right? And a lot of people believe arms harm the people, therefore that they fall under a different jurisdiction. And we're here to tell you that's not true, okay? Now, drop down and I'm going to show you the order right now because I'm going to keep it really simple. All right, this is the order. Creator creates creation. Who's that? That's Father God, that's Jesus Christ, and that's Holy Ghost. What did they create? They created man, woman, child, and the people. And what did the people create? We created everything else. All right. So I have this little flow chart right here because I have to keep it really simple, because some people don't understand what it is that I'm telling them. They really don't understand what it is that I'm telling them. I don't know if I make it too complicated, or I don't know if I'm just too simple with my terms and my conditions, but I just want to show you this bit right here. Okay. This is fun for me because this is how my brain operates. Look, it says God, Jesus Christ, and Holy Ghost. They're on top of the chain of command. Why? Because Creator creates creation. All right. What did they create? Drop down. They created man, woman, child, the people, right? That's what they created. So whenever you see a man or whenever you see a woman out there, or whenever you see a people, their creator is God. Even if they don't know it, they don't even have to believe in it, but the creator, God, created everything. All right. Now, what did the people create? You drop down. They created constitutions. All right. They created documents, and then within these documents create markets, right? So the Constitution created a whole market for the man and the woman to be able to play in and to be able to get their goods and services in. Okay. Now, when you drop down from constitutions, you have governments. Okay. So the constitutions created the governments. All right. The constitutions created the governments, not the other way around. Okay. The governments didn't create the constitutions. The constitutions created the governments, and the people, we created the constitutions, which created the governments. All right. And we created the governments to give them the job to keep markets safe. Right. So when you see your governments out there, that's your legislature, that's your executive, and that's your judicial entity. They have one job: keep the market safe, right? You need to keep the market safe for the people, so then that way we can get out there and we can do what we need to do. That's all they have to do. Nothing more, nothing less. Okay. Now, how do they do this? Drop down, they have statutes. They create legislative statutes, right? The legislative statutes and the legislative codes create public store burdens. All right. So this is what every store that you go out to in the public, they have burdens that are placed on them through the statutes, right? Which means that, yeah, if you want to buy something, you have to show your ID. You have to show your state ID or your federal ID, so then that way they can see who you are and what you are. That way, that's how we determine whether or not you belong to our political association, right? So every government is a political association. It is a public political association that allows our stores to be able to operate in a safe environment, right? So then those are the burdens that the stores have to do, right? They have to do other burdens too. And you can just go look at the codes and you can look at the statutes and see what those are, right? But check this out. A burden is just something that they have to carry. Now, when they place, drop down, unnecessary burdens, if a store has unnecessary burdens on it, those means that equals rights violations, right? An example of an unnecessary burden would be that, when you go to a gun store, right, an arms store, when you go to the gun store, then they ask you, let me see your ID. And then they also ask you, you have to fill out all of this information. And then they also tell you, you have to take a test, right? And then they also tell you, you have to give me money in order for you to do this. And then they also tell you, you have to go to the sheriff's department, and then you have to do some other stuff with the sheriff's department in order for you to get this arm, in order for you to get this good, in order for you to buy this tool. That is what we call an unnecessary burden. Once you see the political ID that one of the men or one of the women present to the store, that should be it. That's all you need to present. And then the only other thing you have to do is you have to see, are they of legal age, right? Legal age in America is 18. Okay, so if they're over 18, then they should be able to buy something from that store. Not unless it's alcohol, right? They can't purchase alcohol. They have to wait till they're 21 to get alcohol, okay? But if you're 18 and over, you can get an arm, right? You can get an arm because you have the God-given right to defend your life, liberty, and property. And your body is your property. Remember this, and we're going to be cool. Okay, now drop down. If you have a rights violation, what does that equal? That equals civil war. What does that equal? That means that you can sue. All right. So if our government entities are violating your rights by placing unnecessary burdens on the stores, right, which then places unnecessary burden on the people, then that means you can sue them. All right. That's all I'm going to tell you. You can sue them. And this is what you need to learn how to do. If you're one of the people with all political power, I can't make it any more simpler than this. You need to learn how to defend your life, your liberty, and your property. And you need to learn how to sue entities, right? You need to learn how to take it to the court, and you need to learn how to make your case, and you need to learn how to present your case. So then that way you can protect your life, liberty, or property. If not, the government is going to turn you out and trick you out and take your property from you. They're going to do it with sneaky words, and we don't like that, okay? Now, we're done with that order right now. Now drop down, and I'm going to show you my job description. This is my secular job description right here. Check this out. It says, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, comma, okay, that's one of the bits right there. So the people, we need a well-regulated militia. Fun fact, the people, we're the militia. Okay, so every man and every woman, if you're one of the people of America, you are the militia. Okay, remember this, all right? Being necessary to the security of a free state. So the militia, the people, we are necessary to the security of the free state. This is why we can go get the arms, okay? The right of the people, that's you, that's me, that's man, that's woman. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. All right. I can't make it any more simpler than that. This is what our forefathers left in our constitutions, which are contracts. These are contracts for our government to understand and to know how to operate, right? So if our government violates our constitutional rights, which means if they place unnecessary burdens on us in order for us to get our arms on by making us jump through hoops, right, then we can sue them. All right. That's what we're telling you right now. Every man and every woman, when you try to go to the store and you try to get your goods and you try to get your services on and they make unnecessary burdens for you to do that, you can sue. And you need to learn how to sue because you got to protect your God-given rights. Okay. And every man and every woman has the right to defend their life, their liberty, and their property by any means necessary. That's by arms. Okay. And what are arms? Weapons of offense or armor for defense and protection of the body. Those are what arms are, okay? Arms just ain't guns. Arms just ain't firearms. Arms are a whole lot more, and you need to learn how to use these terms and these conditions so you stop getting tricked out and turned out by your government entities. I can't make it any more simpler than that, right? These are just the terms and these are just the conditions. Now, if you want to go play in the statutory law realm, You can do that, but just know that you're playing in somebody else's game right there. This is why we always try to come at it from boss position from the Constitution. Okay, so we're done. Let's go ahead and walk it back up now. I just wanted to show you that job description, that the people have the right to bear arms and it shall not be infringed, which means government cannot violate it. Okay, do not let the government place unnecessary burdens on your God-given rights. All right. And then I wanted to show you that order. And then I wanted to show you that unnecessary burdens equals rights violations. And a rights violation equals civil war. And whenever you have civil war, sue. Okay, sue, right? You get to sue the government and you get to sue any man or any woman who's violating your rights. All right, you just got to learn how to put down the proper terms and the proper conditions. And then I wanted to show you what the steps to buy are. It's real simple, right? You know, all political associations, they're just markets for we the people. All right, and you get a state ID or you get a federal ID, and you have to be a member of our political association to get that ID. Now, there's a lot of people out there with fake IDs, and we will find you and we will get you and we will get our government to punish you. Okay. And then I wanted to show you what infringe is, and I wanted to show you what arms are. Never move from those terms and never move from those conditions. Always use that position. Understand what the terms and understand what the conditions mean. Never move from that position, and I guarantee your stress levels will come way, way down. Okay, my neighbor? And that's that hot take on what are arms. Now you know what arms are. Never move from that position and learn how to execute the trust. Okay? All right, we're done with that bit. Let's hop on our next slide. Conclusion. This is my closeout game and I love it. Trust God. All right, I'm going to say this one from now on until my father taps me out. Trust God. Put your trust in God. Put your property in God's trust. And I guarantee your stress levels will come way, way down, right? Because then all you have to learn how to do is dress and keep my father's property. And every man and every woman, you may not know this, but you are property of God, right? And you have a duty and you have an obligation to administer my father's property, all right? And we can show you how to do that. So we're done with that bit. Let's go ahead and walk it back up now. So I just want to give a shout out to the California Attorney General for showing us how they administer the law. I really do appreciate the Attorney Generals because they show us with their words who they serve, right? And we're seeing a lot of them really don't serve the California Constitution or whatever other state you're in. A lot of them don't follow the state's constitutions, and a lot of them don't follow the federal Constitution. A lot of them like to operate from the statute, from the legislative realm. They like to operate from the legislative realm. But if you're one of the people, you can jump jurisdiction over them, and then you can run jurisdiction over your attorney general. And if they violate your constitutional rights, sue them. Okay. All right. And then I wanted to show you that hot take on what are arms. Arms just ain't firearms, and arms just ain't guns, right? Arms are a whole lot more. They're weapons of offense and defense and armor for the body for protection, right? And you only got one body, and you better learn how to protect it. Okay. And then I wanted to talk about who can bear arms. Who can bear arms? The people. Okay. So if you're a man, if you're a woman, if you're one of the people, and if you understand how to operate and execute all political power, you can get arms, right? And you can bear arms, and bear means carry, right? So that's the burden that you have as one of the people. You have a burden to bear arms, right? That means that you got to carry arms because you got to make sure that the state is secure. And how do you do that? By coming together and assembling and consulting for the common good. Remember this, and we're going to be cool, okay? So we're done. Thank you. I'll see you in the future. By God with love. And remember, nobody's having more fun than us. Bye.